Right now at 6, Governor Evers calls for a special session in Madison, a move he says will keep future elections fair.
And a run for America. One man's goal to cross all 50 states on foot passes through the region.
You're watching WKBT La Crosse. This is News 8 Now at 6.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for News 8 Now at 6. I'm Emily Brown.
And I'm Ken Kozarowski. Governor Tony Evers is calling the legislature into special session to ban partisan gerrymandering in the state. Evers signed the executive order this morning calling lawmakers back to the Capitol April 14th. The goal is a constitutional amendment that would permanently keep politics out of the map drawing process. Evers says Wisconsin has fair maps now, but without a permanent process in place, future lawmakers could rig them again after the next census.
If the legislature doesn't act now, our maps could go right back to being rigged, and Wisconsinites could go right back to living under some of the most undemocratic maps in America again.
Republicans have frequently ignored Evers' past special session calls, often gaveling in and out within seconds.
Happening now, La Crosse city leaders are discussing several major changes.
News 8 Now's Jadius McGee is live at City Hall tonight. Jadius, what do we got on the table?
Yeah, two key votes are happening at City Hall tonight. First, the La Crosse Common Council. They're going to vote on a $2 million purchase. The city wants to use tax and criminal district funds to buy the Radisson Center on 2nd Street right next to the La Crosse Center. The agreement includes a restriction that blocks the site from becoming a hotel or restaurant. The J&A committee is also considering an ordinance that would update La Crosse's tobacco and vaping laws to match state and federal rules. The proposal would enforce the minimum age of 21 to purchase or possess tobacco and nicotine products. Also, when and where cigarettes, vaping devices, and other products can be sold. Now, that meeting is set to start right about now. We will bring updates tonight at 10. Reporting La Crosse, Jadius McGee, News 8 Now.
Thank you, Jadius. Barnes & Noble at Valley View Mall closing early due to a safety issue. In a social media post, the store said the issue was related to a leaky roof and water damage. A timeline for reopening is not clear. Any updates will be posted on their Facebook page. UW-La Crosse students helping tell the story of the Upper Mississippi River.
In partnership with conservation group Isaac Walton League of America, the students chartered an airboat to Hinchin Island. There they explored the island and created a series of digital trail signs, allowing visitors to scan them with their phone and learn more about the river's history, wildlife in the area, and barge traffic.
Our idea is that they have to pull together 3 different resources and connect them through a strong theme that allows people to connect to that resource and maybe be more interested or inspired to find out more about it.
The project was made possible by a grant from the Isaac Walton League.
The La Crosse Public Library has opened its newly renovated library archives and local history reading room. It was completed as part of the library's $3 million renovations, improving technology and opening up the room of the archives. The archives reading room offers access to city records, maps, and county history.
Learn about the people, the interesting social and cultural history of things that have happened here can really educate and make you appreciate your own community more.
That room is open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. weekdays and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturdays.
A man on a historic mission is running through Wisconsin today. Noah Coughlin is on his 5th and final run across America, a 5,500-mile journey to become the only the 3rd person ever to cross all 50 states on foot. Earlier today, he was on Highway 12 heading towards Tomah.
When you see the country on foot, it's very intimate. It's very up close and personal, as opposed to driving through or on a plane. And you go town to town, I start to realize that we actually have a lot more in common than we do apart.
Coughlin plans to finish his historic trek in Hawaii on July 4th later this year on America's 250th birthday.
And an absolutely perfect day to be running through Monroe County, Greg.
And it's going to be probably that way through at least maybe about Thursday, and then we got some bigger changes for Friday and beyond. But for today, we had a little bit of cloud cover in the morning, but a lot of afternoon sunshine. 50s where you didn't have much of a snow cover on the ground. Otherwise, it was in the 40s too. So once again, above average. We should be around 40 for a lot of areas, or at least upper 30s for your average temperature this time of year. Right now, currently still very pleasant out there. Very light winds and no clouds at all in the sky right now. So we're looking at 43 or 47. So really nice evening overall. If you look area-wide, just a few clouds out to the west and to the south, but pretty clear for most of the area as we get back down into the 40s for most areas, or approaching 30 in a few isolated areas. No issues this evening, getting back down to about 34 with pretty much calm winds and clear skies, and very similar for Eau Claire, dropping from about 48 to about 37. Once again, calm winds and clear skies once again. Overall, the big story is we do have a little bit of fog to contend with the morning, but once that lifts, we do have still mild and mainly dry conditions through Thursday, but we'll explain how wet and maybe stormy it might get for Friday into early Saturday a bit later in the forecast, a bit later in the broadcast, I should say.
There you go. Thanks, Greg.
And a reminder, you can track weather on your block by downloading the First Warn weather app. Well, breaking right now, the Pentagon has identified 4 of the 6 U.S. soldiers killed in Kuwait over the weekend.
Those identified are Cody Cork of Winter Haven, Florida, Noah Teachins of Bellevue, Nebraska, Nicola Moore of White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and Declan Cody of West Des Moines, Iowa. They died from an Iranian drone attack Saturday. The other 2 names are being withheld until next of kin have been notified. As strikes continue to rock Iran's capital city, President Trump defends his decision to use military force.
We didn't do what we're doing right now, you would have had a nuclear war and they would have taken out many countries, because you know what? They're sick people.
Iran launched retaliatory strikes across the region, including a hit on the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia.
At the White House, a push to secure charter flights to evacuate U.S. citizens trapped in the Middle East. Those flights will leave from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan.
And gas prices seeing the biggest one-day jump since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. According to AAA, the national average jumped 11 cents.
And stay with News 8 Now online and on air for continuing coverage of the U.S. attack on Iran.
Still to come tonight, guilty on all counts. A father convicted for giving his son the gun used in a Georgia school shooting.
And Target's new CEO says big changes are coming. The retailers plan to fight back against stagnant sales.
Tomorrow on News 8 Now this morning, a lacrosse wellness event covers everything from your nervous system to your soul. We'll have those details, and Art has a wet but warmer week ahead starting at 5 a.m.
A jury in Georgia convicted a father for his part in a deadly school shooting.
Authorities say he gave his 14-year-old son an assault rifle that was allegedly used to kill 2 students and 2 teachers at Appalachia High School. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry has the latest.
Count 1, murder in the 2nd degree. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Colin Gray showed little emotion as the verdict was read.
Count 2, cruelty to children in the 2nd degree.
Finding him guilty of all 27 charges, including 2nd-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors argued Gray gave his son, then 14-year-old Colt, access to the gun and ammunition he used in the 2024 shooting at Georgia's Appalachia High School that left 2 students and 2 teachers dead.
The defendant is not charged with these crimes because he is Colt's parent, because he shares his last name. He is charged with these crimes because he shares the blame.
Gray was the only witness to testify in his defense. He detailed an often volatile home life, his son being bullied at school, and why he thought giving the rifle as a Christmas gift for hunting together could help.
My original thought was this would be a great way I could bond with my son.
Some relatives of the victims were inside the courtroom. They cried as the verdicts were read.
District Attorney Brad Smith hopes this verdict starts the healing process.
I hope that we remember that as parents, as community members, to protect our children, because that is our God-given duty.
Colt Gray, who is still awaiting trial, has pleaded not guilty to all 55 charges against him. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Winder, Georgia.
The developing news, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick will talk with the House Oversight Committee. It'll be a closed-door meeting. Lutnick's past association with Jeffrey Epstein has been under scrutiny since he appeared in DOJ's files. He hasn't been accused of any wrongdoing.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was questioned on Capitol Hill today. Senators from both parties pressed her about the deadly shooting of 2 American citizens by federal agents in Minnesota. Noem refused to say whether agents were at fault in the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. The hearing comes as parts of DHS remain shut down since February 14th, with Democrats holding up funding while pushing for ICE reforms.
Immigration enforcement, aviation security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and the protection of critical infrastructure are all being strained.
Noem testifies before the House Judiciary Committee tomorrow.
It is primary day in North Carolina, Texas, and Arkansas, though all eyes are on Texas. The runoff race to watch is the one for Democratic Senate between Representative Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico. In a January University of Houston poll, Crockett led Tallarico by 8 points.
Target's new CEO says the chain hopes to win back customers with changes to merchandise and store designs. Michael Fidelki says the company will increase capital spending by 25%. The retailer is trying to turn things around after years of stagnant sales and stiff competition from Amazon and Walmart.
We will have more news ahead.
But first.
Yeah, dry and spring-like at least through Thursday, but we got a wet and maybe even stormy Friday to contend with. We'll break it all down coming up on your First Warn Weather Update after the break. Well, for the next week and a half, it's really going to feel more like spring, maybe like April type conditions occasionally, or even later than April too. And then probably by the next week and a half, maybe the next half of the next following week, towards the middle of the month, we're going to start switching back probably more to like wintertime or more like early March conditions too. But for the time being, basically the cold air is locked to the north or to the east of the area. We're going to see this type of pattern continue as you winds out of the southwest. Now, as we go through Thursday into Friday, you'll notice really the warm air begin to push further to the north. By the time we get to Friday, here's this little cold front that'll be coming through. Here's this system, and when you see a big change of air masses like this, typically you're going to have severe weather start to pop up. Better as you go further south, but this pattern here is going to swing a low pressure system, eventually a cold front, some point through probably Friday evening, maybe Friday night, through the area, and that does provide rain, which we could use for some areas, and provide for some thunderstorms, which could be strong. Once that sweeps through, we kind of get a little cooler for Saturday, but look at as it goes through early next week, we pop those winds back up around the southwest, and we get warmer conditions going Monday and Tuesday before we have another change come beyond that. So right now, as we look at currently what's going on, this system to the north is going to stay there, not going to be an influence to us. Further south, we have one that's developing towards Missouri. That's lifting north as we get later Wednesday into Thursday. Just some cloud cover, especially maybe a shower going Thursday, but don't expect a lot of activity from that system as most of the moisture stays south. For tonight, the main issue is probably going to be fog, given we cleared out and we still got some snow-covered areas out there. So what you're going to see overall is expansion of either a low cloud or eventually fog, and I got the visibilities here indicated there. So as we get closer to 4 to 5 in the morning, a lot of this low clouds will begin to fill over the area, especially in the snow-packed areas, and visibilities could drop below 1 at times through the morning commute. As you note, it kind of hugs the Mississippi River in areas to the west. There may be areas that see patchy to the east, but not too much. We'll see that begin to lift up a little bit towards noon, and I think by the afternoon time frame, most areas are going to be seeing plenty of sunshine, and then towards the late afternoon and evening, you'll start seeing a little bit of cloud cover begin to approach from the south. That's that developing system I mentioned. It'll give us more cloud cover going into Thursday, maybe a shower or two. Tonight's temperature is really upper 20s, low 30s, quite mild for this time of year, and the area of fog that will develop. Tomorrow, after the fog lifts, it should be mild conditions, maybe a few degrees warmer. 50s pretty much area-wide, some upper 40s where snowpack really exists. As we go into Thursday, as I mentioned, a lot more cloud cover, maybe a shower or two, but don't expect too much in the way of any precipitation with this. You see the winds out of the east. Temperatures may come down a few degrees just because of the cloud cover, but still overall above average, about 10 degrees above average for everyone. As we go into Friday, it gets a little bit more complicated because how things play out. You see these high temperatures, low confidence on this, because if this warm front that we're tracking goes further to the north, you probably could increase these temperatures in the afternoon, as most of the rain is going to follow late morning into early afternoon. The severe threat comes more Thursday evening as the cold front comes through. So we could be warmer than this, especially further south you go. So something to keep an eye on. As we go for the severe threat, as I mentioned, that's coming through right now. Areas to the south are a little bit higher, but we're stretching this 15% probable area all the way up to southern Wisconsin, which is very significant for this time of year. Well, to keep an eye on it, once again, it just depends on how far north this warm front gets and the low pressure system where it tracks. But southern Wisconsin, at least south of I-90, something to keep in mind of Friday evening. We could see some severe threat. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Otherwise, we go throughout the rest of the weekend. We kind of clear out Saturday, as I mentioned, but then we warm right back up as we move the clocks forward on Sunday. And Monday, Tuesday, definitely, especially Monday, we could get quite warm again and breezy as the next system comes through Tuesday and Wednesday. And I think towards the second half of next week is when we switch more back to, I wouldn't say winter-like conditions, but it's definitely more early March, late February conditions. So it gets a little bit colder.
Sure.
So otherwise, enjoy the nice conditions for the most part until about Friday, and then it gets a little active.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Coming up next in sports, he's back. Giannis returns to the Bucks. Doc Rivers weighs in on what it does for the lineup. Plus, the Onalaska boys are gearing up for what they hope to be a deep postseason run that ends in Madison. We'll hear from the team next.
Covering all the exciting action from your community. Here's News 8 Now Sports with Jacob Lenzendorf.
Boys basketball is the last sport here in Wisconsin to get playoffs underway, with the regional quarterfinals tipping off at the top of the hour. And while Onalaska has had a truly special season so far with a 20-3 overall record and a conference title, the Hilltoppers are hoping that they've saved their best for last. Onalaska began the season with a 13-0 record and were firing on all cylinders, but the 3 losses they had during the year taught the team a lot. And head coach Craig Cole says his guys have focused in on the little things that can separate good teams from great ones.
I just think it's a combination of how we've prepared for each and every game throughout the year. You know, each game is kind of a building block to this point, and these kids have really taken an initiative to pay attention to detail throughout the season. I think when they do that and they take pride in that, it really helps them, you know, come March.
Craig's youngest son, Tyler, has taken a massive jump as a sophomore this season, leading the team in scoring at 17 points per game. He says it's been a total team effort, and they are excited to see what March brings.
It's a great feeling that, you know, we have a chance to do something special. With this team, I mean, it's just some of the best basketball we've played in a long time. And like, it's just been so fun. Everybody like is there for each other, you know, supporting each other. It's not like one person is better than anyone else.
Tyler went on to say playing at the Kohl Center is obviously the goal at the end of the year, but they won't overlook any opponent in front of them, and Anna will find out who they face on Friday as tonight's winner of Shawano and Menasha will face the Hilltoppers at 7 o'clock. And speaking of the postseason, the Bucks are trying to get there, and a major piece returned yesterday as Giannis came back from injury in a blowout loss to the Celtics. Milwaukee has now lost 3 straight games after winning 8 of their previous 10. And head coach Doc Rivers knows things will need to get ironed out with the Bucks star after missing 5 weeks.
Yeah, I thought he was really good the first stretch. You know, in the second half, I thought we were great to come out. I think we cut it to 9. Then I thought Derek White just took the game over. But I thought he was fine. I thought our rhythm at times, you know, if you remember, like in the first half, Ouz comes off, he should have kept going, but he was looking for Giannis. That's just growing pains and not playing with guys, and you can live with that.
It's definitely good to have your superstar back in the lineup, but there's no time to waste, guys. There's just 22 games left, and the Bucks 3.5 out of the play-in, so they got to get to business pretty quick here.
Absolutely, and there was some criticism for Doc on how he messed with some of the rotations.
Yeah.
It definitely changes when Giannis gets put back in the mix, but you got to find the right combo of players on the floor at the right time.
Kind of like a chef with like a big soup, right? You just got to make sure that all the right ingredients are going at the right time. I've heard. I'm not a huge soup maker myself, but I've heard.
The analogy is sound.
It works.
Thanks, Jacob.
All right, Greg has a final look at your forecast right after this.
All right, we'll get to see some areas of fog tonight through the morning commute, especially if you're near a snow-packed area. It could be dense, something to keep in mind of. Once that clears out, we should be seeing really nice conditions overall. 50s, mid-50s, a little bit cooler Thursday due to cloud cover, and then wet, potentially stormy as we go Friday into early Saturday. But enjoy the spring-like conditions for the most part.
I know we will.
No highs in the 30s is good with me.
Amen.
All right, thanks for joining us at 6.
We'll see you tonight at 10.